We all have situations, experiences, and moments in our life when we know deep at our core we have to do something different. We have to pivot. And regardless of how big or small that pivot is, it requires us to change something in our life. And that change can feel really uncomfortable. However, it is that change that is creating something entirely new. And it is that newness that creates a very different way of life in one area or multiple areas of our life. What's this all about? It is all about reinventing thyself. My name is Michelle Shutter, and I'd like to welcome you to Reinventing Thyself. I am so glad that you joined me today because it is here that we'll move beyond our old self, our old identity, and that trailer of garbage from the past that we like to pull into the future, but really need to ditch that hitch. It is here that we'll move into that place of reinvention and embracing the newness of it all. Are you ready to step into reinventing thyself? Because guess what? It is never too late, and your time is now. Let's get started. Welcome to this week's episode of Reinventing Thyself. Today we are going to dive into 2021's breaks and breaks. So breaks as in B-R-A-K-E-S and breaks as in B-R-E-A-K-S. So glad you are here and that you are willing to carve out some time to either catch this on podcast or on video. My name is Michelle Shutter, and I am a certified life coach. And one of the things I love to do is to support women through this whole process of reinventing thyself. Because let's face it, when change happens, when change is here, it's here for a reason. However, sometimes it's really challenging to step into that fully. And that whole process of stepping into it is the reinvention process. So we actually reinvent ourselves on a daily basis. Sometimes it's a big goal, sometimes it's just little, but each and every day we are reinventing ourselves. And so it's my intention that these episodes really support you. Now, if you've been following me, you know I took a hiatus for quite a while in 2021, and I'm going to get into that a little bit here in this episode, but I just want to tell you, it feels really good to be back. It feels really great to be sitting here with you. Again, whether you're listening or watching the video, it feels really good. And that piece of alignment was something I worked on a lot in 2021 so that I would set myself up for a better 2022. Not to say that 2021 was bad, because it was filled with a lot of growth, as maybe you can experience or have experienced as well. But there is something about new beginnings, and unfortunately, most people think, and it's promoted and marketed as, the start of the year has to be the new beginning. Well, that isn't true. We can start whenever we want and reinvent ourselves whenever we want. And, I want you to know that the creation that comes through me through these episodes, it's really not to tell you what to believe or what to think or the process. It's really for you to create an awareness and then pull those things in that resonate with you the most. If you don't do that from a heart space, you're going to go down a long path. When you do it all from a head space, it's going to be really frustrating and challenging. And so my intention through these episodes is to really support you in coming from that heart space and really creating that awareness around the different things that you do or don't do. So, as I said before, this episode is all about the breaks and breaks of 2021. Now, when I sat down and really thought about this episode and really what I wanted to share with you, it really came down to two things. There were intentional breaks and there were unintentional breaks that happened throughout the year. So I'm going to share a few of them with you today. I did actually even write some notes down because there were some things just that I wanted to get out of my head, more so for my clarity than anything else. So let's talk about the brakes, the brakes. When we take our foot off the gas and we put the brake on. And let's start with some of the intentional breaks that happened in 2021. So one of the biggest things for me was social media. Like, I had to put the brake on social media. It got just so heavy for me in a sense, but I want to tell you why. When you are blasted sometimes, and it doesn't even have to be public. Majority of the time, it happens for me at least, in private messaging. When you get blasted by people because you speak differently or you hold something different that feels more aligned, more truthful for you, or if you can't ask a question anymore and the response that comes is just filled with heaviness, like it for me, it was just like I got to put the brakes on, and I got to hold it there for as long as I need. And I think I know the piece that felt the heaviness in all of it was just like the lost connection, the lost respect for each other and for what people stand for. And on the other side of losing that connection was just the projection of fear and anger and guilting and shaming and blaming, and the toxicity of it was just too much. Like, it just put my system into overload, and I didn't want to have a part of it anymore. So taking time away to create that clarity and really look at, like, how do I want this to look going forward? What boundaries do I have to put around myself in a sense, or establish, so that as I do come back to social media, I don't have those projections, or I know how to handle those projections better. And it's really interesting because a lot of times when you say something and it sparks something in somebody, like, really, you're just like holding that mirror up. But when it comes fast and furious at you, it's just a time to pull back and shut down. And again, like there's nothing good or bad about it. It just is. But from a place of putting the brakes on in 2021, like I needed space just to realign with what I truly want. So, one thing I want to share about social media is it's really interesting because, like, you can do this at any time, right? You don't have to wait for a big thing to happen or anything like that. But one of my sons, my 15-year-old, came home yesterday and he said, "That's it. I'm done with social media. I am turning off all my notifications. I put all my apps in a folder and I slid it off my homepage of my phone. Like, I don't want to have anything to do with it." And I was like, well, okay, trying to hem and haw around, like, what's going on? What happened? Did somebody say something about you? What? And he just had said, like, I'm sick of people. And I'm like, and I said, okay. And, like, from a teenage kid, like, social media and their phones and the apps and all that, like, that is how they connect and stay connected. And really what it boiled down to was, like, he just is sick of people that put out the toxicity and sick of the drama of it all. And I thought, dang, that's really powerful, right? Like, how you see that at age 15 and you don't want to have anything to do with it because it doesn't serve your higher self. Like, that is super powerful. So that was the first thing I put the brakes on, was social media. Now, through social media also came relationships where it was like, no, I'm going to put a pause on you in this online relationship. Now, granted, a lot of people I know offline as well, but it's so interesting because it's so easy to hide behind the computer. It's so easy to hide behind a personal message. And it would be something that was never said to your face, right? Like, that person just wouldn't say it to your face. but it's easy to do through a platform. And so there were relationships that I had to put the brakes on. And I did that intentionally. Is this the energy of this person someone that I want in my space? And why do I allow his or her energy to enter my space if it is something I don't want? And so that was a really good thing for me to also look at is, are they impacting how I want to show up in the world? Are they projecting their garbage onto me because they want us or they want me to come back down to where they are? And it didn't resonate with me. And so again, it was one of those things where I wasn't even like full throttle on the gas, right? But it was just like, hit that brake. I need a break from it. The third thing, which is really interesting, that I put a brake on is my fitness program. And you might be thinking, like, what? It's really interesting because in 2021, I turned 50. And like right before I did 50, or maybe it overlapped with when I did 50, I went through a program and was very diligent, very consistent, 90 days, didn't miss a day, did workouts, blah, blah, blah. And honestly, the results were like minuscule. And it was so frustrating. Like, right? Like, why would I commit to all of this time and really get like basically no results, no change? Even though my food intake and my nutrition was online, and it was so frustrating. So it was like, okay, I'm putting the brakes on my fitness program. And really what it boiled down to is like hormonal, situations going on. It's creating some havoc in your body. Like I turned 50 in 2021, as I just mentioned. So a lot of changes were going on, and I couldn't use the same fitness program anymore. It just like didn't resonate with my body anymore because of the changes my body was going through. And it's not to say that I didn't do some form of exercise the majority of the time. It was just to say like I had to release and put the brake on the programs that weren't serving me anymore. And it's really interesting. Like it's so easy to be like, oh my gosh, I did this program, a couple months or a couple years ago and I got great results. I'm just going to do it again. Well, yeah, that's great, except that things are always changing, right? Like you're always reinventing yourself. Your body's even reinventing itself. So if you are not getting the results, like why would you continue to do it? And that was like an eye opener for me too. Like I am, 30 days into it and I'm not seeing anything. But you know what? The heartaholic in me is going to be like, we're going to keep going. We're going to do this just so I can color in all those boxes. 60 days into it. Nope. Still no results. All right. That's it. I'm going to go even harder yet and go through that. 90 days. How many, like, what were my results? Basically none. Right? So that was super frustrating in itself. So what did I do? I put the brake on. Put the brake on a fitness program. And, probably about 3 months or so later, found something different. Worked a little bit better, but I would say the majority of my exercise the last probably 5 months or so has been walking. And am I thrilled with the physical results of it? No, because right, like you have to do something different to really look at increasing your muscle strength and all that. However, like my overall well-being feels so much better. So that was the third thing. And then the fourth thing was just like the whole piece of creating content, whether it was podcasts or videos or anything like that. Like when all these pieces were coming at me like fast and furious, I didn't hold a piece of inspiration in my body. And so why would I want to get in front of the camera, or why would I want to create a podcast when I don't feel aligned, inspired, and my energy is like tanking, right? Like that doesn't feel right for me. Is it right for other people? Absolutely. But for me, it just didn't feel right. And so like I give kudos to those people who can get in front of the camera when they're feeling like really crappy and can record it. And yet at the same time, I also have to ask, like, what are you seeking from that? What is your intention behind that? Because if your intention is pure, like you just want to share with somebody, like, this happens to me too, great. But if you're hidden unconsciously this intention of, I need some validation, or I want, I'm like not even consciously thinking about it, creating some drama in my life so somebody, notices me, that, that's the wrong purpose, then things are not aligned. So for me, it was just easier to, boom, hit the brakes, back out, and not do anything. But then, as I'm reflecting on things throughout the year, there were also unintentional breaks that I put on. And that was more of a bigger awareness for me that I really wanted to sit and look deeper at. So one of those was, the emotional feels, the energetic choices that I was making. Was I truly allowing myself to feel all the feels? And it's really interesting because a couple months ago, like that came up. And then at the beginning of December, it came up again, like feel all the feels. And that's how I wanted to go into 2022, is just like feel all the feels. It's neither good nor bad. It also serves a purpose. But when we do not allow ourselves to fully feel that emotion, I believe like that's kind of where that spiral downward can happen. And it's not always a quick spiral downward. It can happen over time as well. And so when we can stay present in that moment and allow that emotion just to process and move through our body, the outcome of that serves us at such a higher level. The second unintentional was, nutritional choices. Now, I'm rather diligent about my nutrition. The holidays put me into a huge fog, which wasn't great by any means. Yesterday and today, I've been going through a detox to really clear that out, which has been phenomenal. But remember when I talked about putting the brake on my fitness programs? Well, the nutritional choices that I was making through that fitness program were stellar, right? Like it was on. I actually track every single day. I track what I eat and what I drink, what I put in my body, like every single day. So it was very easy for me to look back and see kind of where things fell off. However, it wasn't necessarily intentional. And I say that because it's really easy for some kind of craving to creep in. It's really easy for some kind of emotion to take over, and then we numb it with food. And so as you're kind of seeing here, it's like that the overlapping of things that are coming together for the perfect storm, essentially. And one of the final like unintentional break that I put on in 2021 was breaking on my values. And my values are fulfillment, family, inspiration, love, transformation, and freedom. Like those are my 6 really important values. But all of this that I was breaking on, again, like all of it was fueling the perfect storm. And for me to really sit and reflect and think about, oh my gosh, I've got to bring those values back to the forefront of who I am, is really powerful. So those were the breaks, the BRAKES. And one of the biggest things that, or I guess let's go with one. One of the biggest breaks, BREAKS, like I'm breaking this off, had to do around relationships. And connection is so important to the human spirit, right? Like being around people that we truly love and desire and have that deep soulful connection is so important. However, there are relationships that I realized in 2021 that it's just time to break it. Like it is time to move away from that. And so that is interesting because it's not always receptive. Sometimes it also happens on the other side where that person's breaking that relationship with you. And again, it's this space of, you know what? This is serving my greater good. And I'm just going to move forward. Now, one of the relationships that I wouldn't say I fully probably broke this off, but it was really interesting because a friend of mine, we went on a walk, probably a little bit maybe before Christmas or somewhere in there. And we were talking about that whole superhero persona and how like we're so done with it and how it really leads women down the wrong path. Because when you have a relationship with that superhero persona, you're looking at, control, having to do it all, perfection. And that's really not what we want. That really doesn't serve our greatest good, our truest self. And so really taking a break in breaking off that relationship with the superhero is really it's fulfilling, right? It is just create space for you to do something else, something bigger, something better. And, and perhaps it's just like the age I'm getting to as well. I'm not sure, but let's face it, when you are in the thick of motherhood, you do become that superhero, even if it's unintentional, because there is that space where you feel you have to do it all. And for some, it doesn't last all the time. It doesn't last forever. Some, it's a short period of time. But when you are in that space, it's really challenging to think otherwise or to really break that relationship. So those were my intentional and unintentional breaks of 2021. Now, I share that because perhaps something will spark inside you that will create some awareness in moving into 2022. Like maybe there are some intentional breaks that I want to put in place already in 2022. And the one thing that I noticed about implementing the breaks is that it provides clarity. It provides certainty. And it provides room for creation. And as a female with feminine energy, and both men and women have feminine energy, but talking to females here, like we have to be in that place of creation. We have to utilize it somehow. Whether it is, you're painting, drawing, you're cooking, you're sewing, you're creating something or doing something. And even if it's making a video or a podcast, right? Like it is creating in some way. And we become disconnected from that over time. So when we can apply the breaks to bring that back into our life, it serves us greatly. Now, one thing before I wrap up here that I want to share with you is there are some things throughout 2021 that I never put a break on, whether it was BRAKE or BREIK. One of those things was I never stopped working on forgiveness. Forgiveness is such a powerful, I don't want to say a tool, but it's such a powerful component to life that so many of us could work through and create more space within us if we allowed forgiveness to take on a new level. So forgiveness is one of the things that I did not take a break on. The second thing is investing in myself. I never stopped investing in myself, even at the heaviest moments, the darkest moments, where I just was like, I don't want to do anything ever again in my life, type of thing. Like, I didn't stop investing in myself. And I just created a post or posted this morning about, it was nearly 4,700 pages that I read in 2021. And all of that is just pure investment in myself. So think about that. Perhaps there's a way that you can invest in yourself. I never took a break from starting over or reinventing myself. It doesn't always happen as quickly as what our ego minds think it should. However, we can't stay in that situation forever. So at some point, the ball starts rolling, however quickly or however slowly, to start over. And the fourth thing, and again, like all this is certainly meshed together, is just that inner work and really looking at the components of life of your life that need to be healed, and that the energy that you're holding on to that really deserves to be released. And so those four things, forgiveness, investing in myself, starting over, inner work, that place of healing, just like all of that were things that I never took a break on in 2021. So everything will just continue to evolve and be a work in progress. And some things that just kind of floated into my head this morning when I was thinking about this podcast is, the piece of self-judgment. How is that going to show up in 2022? And what awareness do I have around it that will I need to put a break on or a break on? The second thing is just like taking on the pain of others. And that is something like that is I've had to work on a lot. And that's a pattern that just, kind of comes up for me. Now I have a lot more awareness around it, but it isn't easy to break some of those patterns, to break some of those habits. And the third thing is just of creation, of, am I creating from that aligned place, or am I to create expansiveness and evolve to a new level, or am I creating because it feels I feel like I have to put something out, or it feels forced? Like all of that, again, is just super awareness. So I'm super excited what 2022 has for you. And if perhaps you are ready to already apply some breaks, like, who cares, right? There's no judgment around that. And so it is. It's just the way it is. If it aligns with you and your truest self, like, do it. Go for it. Don't wait for something huge to happen to believe you have to for it to change, because that isn't the case. And I'm really excited because I ended 2021 in that creation mode, and it's just kind of oozed here into 2022. And one of the things I'm really excited about is just a 5-step process to reinventing thyself. And it's a free video series that I put out, and just it was super fun to create, and really allows people to look at the whole process of reinventing yourself in a different way. Because let's face it, if you're here and where you want to go is here, in between here, there's going to be a whole lot of garbage that starts to show up when you're reinventing yourself. And for you to move it forward, take some awareness, take some ability to put the brakes on, and take some ability to put the brake on and break away from it as well. And sometimes we don't see that when we're so close. So I put together these 5 videos to really support people through that process. Now, keep in mind, when you clear this out, you move forward. But then when you want to reinvent or expand again, you go forward, and guess what? Blah, 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 like it all comes up again. So it's just, it's a process that happens over and over and over again. And these 5 steps, they are not in any sequence, but they do overlap and mesh beautifully together. So if you would like to have access to that video series, just go to reinventingthyself.com /5 steps, the number 5 and the word steps, no spaces, no dashes. So reinventingthyself.com /5 steps. The second thing that I'm super excited about is a program that will be starting, I believe, in February. I need to double check that timeline, but it's all about reinventing your year. And starting in February, because let's face it, we start off hot in 2022, the new year, and then we go up and we slowly come down. And so we are not starting in January, but we'll start in February, and that is all reinventing your year. So if you want some more information about that, you can email me at hello@michelleshutter.com, or I will put a number in the description below where you can text me. So I want to end this podcast, the first one of 2022, or this video, just really encouraging you to embrace the newness of change. Not because it's a new year, but embracing change throughout your whole year. The change shows up because you're ready. You may not believe it consciously. You may believe that, I need to control this. I need to get this in order first, and yada, 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 right? Like all that, those stories start to come up. But it is showing up because you are here, you are ready, and you're ready to heal the past so that you can move into the truest expression of who you are. You're meant to go into this place to create space for the newness. And you can't hold on to your old self and your old identity and your old ways and patterns that didn't serve you moving forward. So think about registering for that, or taking advantage of that 5 steps to reinventing yourself video series, because that will support you greatly in reinventing yourself. Embrace the change, lean into the pivot. You deserve it. Well, what are you waiting for? Whether you've pivoted and are unsure, or you're on the verge of pivoting, there is no better time than now for you to begin. Want to know why? Because if it wasn't the right time, the pivot wouldn't have shown up. And to get you started, I've got 3 shortcuts to reinventing thyself. Just head on over to www.reinventingthyself.com and you can download it there. And don't forget to message me with the shortcut that resonates with you the most. One last thing. I know you and I are not the only ones that have leaned into the pivot. Be sure to share this with others so they can be supported too. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for supporting me and sharing this message. Until next time.